YouTube battle community, Who fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about the Who's 1965-1966 album, The Who Sings My Generation. This is the European version. This is the US version released in 1966. The UK version had a slightly different track list, a different cover, and came out much earlier in December of 65. This didn't come out until April of 1966. And in America, The Who really didn't take off basically till Tommy, but like mostly the Smothers Brothers thing. So like they were kind of underground for lack of a better term, but you know, getting exposed to the American audiences. Over in England, I mean, they were putting on these amazing live shows. People just knew about them as the guys who wrecked all their gear. They were super loud, and there was crazy feedback. And you know, one guy's swinging his microphone, one guy's smashing his guitars, one guy's bouncing all over the drums, and the bass player's keeping it all solid down on the right side of the stage. So this is the album that came out after they had put out a few singles. You know, I Can't Explain, Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere had already been out in a single in the charts, and they decided to go in and do an album, and they did this pretty quickly. Basically, just to have something out there for the Christmas market. But it's a fascinating document of the Who at this period, where they're still an R&B band, they're still a mod group, they're doing R&B songs in that tradition of, you know, Roger's got this like really gruff vocal thing going on. Pete's guitar lines are very like slinky and clean. But then you got Keith and John just going absolutely crazy on their instruments, and some songs on here are definitely later than other tracks as they were recorded. You can already tell the track listing on this album shows them growing as a band already before you even get to the end, especially with the song Instant Party, which was done much later than the original UK counterpart of this record. But I love this thing. I mean, this album has always been a lot of fun. It's a great introduction to the group of their early days, you know, kind of get an idea of what they may have been like in the clubs and, you know, being a part of that scene. And I think the cover is so cool, too. Not to just talk about the image on it, but they just look so cool. You know, Big Ben behind them, and you know, it screams Britain in the '60s. It's just very cool. Yeah, I really do enjoy this album a lot, though. I mean, the singles at this point, like I said, Can't Explain was a humongous smash for them. Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere was them trying to sound like them live, but captured in the studio. And then My Generation came out as a single in November of '65. So before this album even came out, 3 singles had been out there, and they called it My Generation probably just because the song was so hot at the point. But you know, it was pretty effective. But very cool little setup for this guy. The US version has a slight different track listing. We'll go into that more as we go along here. But the album opens up with Out in the Street, which I think is an awesome introduction. It's a song written by Pete. And you're instantly introduced to Keith's wild drumming. So if you'd never seen The Who live before, and this is your first time hearing them in the States, you know, you went to the record store and you picked this up, you heard My Generation on the radio, or whatever the case may be, you're instantly thrown into this absolute pounding of tom-tom fills, punchy snare drums, crazy thrashing cymbals. Like, for audiences to be exposed to The Who back then, it must have been wild, because not only was the singing a little bit different, but the playing behind it was so passionate. I mean, the style that, especially with Pete's rhythm and his guitar, and especially with John's bass, but Keith's drumming is just beyond what anybody else was doing at that point. So to hear him go completely nuts on some of this stuff is so much fun, because it gives a pop song so much more weight and so much more depth and dynamics than what was expected of a pop song. So you get this whole different image and feel of what a band could be doing a pop song or an R&B song, whatever you want to call it. But Roger's doing his early tough guy voice thing, which he would drop over the next couple of years. And there's excellent harmonies on this track. I love the, you know, whoo part in the middle. That's great. Pete doing the switch thing on his pickups. Like, it's a really fun track. It's exciting. It gets you really pumped to hear the album. This is a total R&B mod smash of a song, if you ask me. I Don't Mind is a great song on here too. It's the James Brown song, and the vocals on this again are fantastic. Pete's guitar for me sounds very sympathetic. It's got kind of a weepy, sexy appeal to it in a weird, almost catastrophic. And it captures your attention because it's kind of sad, but it's also kind of interesting at the same time. But he's got a really rubbery, kind of slinky sound to his guitar sound. But they do this song complete justice. I'm a big fan of the James Brown version, and this song is it just sounds like they wrote it. They do a great job with it. The start and stop rhythms throughout this song with the whole "You're Gonna Miss Me," dun, 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 great, perfect. Roger's got some emotion in his voice in this track, which I think benefits it a lot. So instead of just being the whole gruff thing, actually still has a little bit of soul there, which I think works really well. But the whole smooth solo that runs throughout this thing, the vocals, like I said, are top-notch stuff. I mean, these were a group of guys that you can tell loved what they were doing and wanted to focus on that. And even though they were making an album super quick, it works. They did an excellent job. The Good's Gone is another Pete original, and this is right up there with some of his best early work. I think Roger's voice on this one definitely benefits from that snarl, that really tough guy kind of thing, that stiff upper lip kind of voice thing. Again, a lot of cymbal and drum work on this one as well. So it's just Keith showing off that he wasn't just going to play it straight the whole way through. He's going to make the song his own, which completely changes the whole aspect of the song and makes it much more interesting. But I like the solo on this song. I like the key change. It's a super catchy track. Just about when the good's gone. La 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 Lies. This one's really cool. More heavy tone work on this one for sure, showing off what Keith can do in the background there. And this song is covered in excellent background vocals. This is a really fun, upbeat, poppy track. The piano, I think, is from Nicky Hopkins, most likely. He did a lot of the piano stuff back then. The middle break is really fun. It's just a good track. Upbeat, poppy stuff. Much Too Much is a cool song, too. Harder guitars, wild drums, confident vocals from Roger. It continues that tradition of what's been built up over the last few tracks. This song for me could have been a single. This could have been bubbling in the top 40 somewhere. It's really not bad. I mean, it's got the single qualities that would make it interesting for radio. It covers all the marks. I mean, it definitely, it sounds like an early version of So Sad About Us, kind of like the grandfather to that song. And then side one ends with the amazing anthem of My Generation, and what more can be possibly said about that song, but that it's fascinating in its construction. It's got Roger stuttering, it's got a bass solo, it's got a crashing ending, it's got a couple key changes, and lyrically, it's an anthem. It's about telling the older generation to sod off, like, this is what we're all about now, this is our current climate, this is who we are, what we want to promote ourselves as. For the rest of us, that we're all in this together. This is a song for all of us. It's My Generation. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of those songs too that, definitely it's linked to the 60s for sure, but it's something that anyone can identify with as they're growing up. When you're a teenager, you're looking for your place in the world, and when you find your gang, you find your people to hang out with, and you develop relationships and friendships and, your identity. Having a song like My Generation is just basically saying, hey, old people, this is where it's at now. You guys are completely lost. So, was it John Sebastian? There's a song called Younger People, or Younger Generation. There's a line that goes something along the lines of, why must every generation think their parents' generations were squares, or something like that. I'm butchering it, but it's that kind of mentality where it's like, the new cool thing while we're young is what's happening now. We have a statement to make. We are involved with politics, we're involved with culture, we're involved with fashion and music and pop entertainment. We're involved in our entire universe, and we are ahead of the curve because we're young and with it, and we want to make changes. And that's kind of what My Generation encompasses ideal-wise. It's a lot that this song encompasses, let alone just the fact that they're telling old people that they're boring and old, but there's a lot to it. It's angry, it's gruff, it's fun, it's energetic, it's explosive. It's a track that captures your imagination and your attention and has never faded. It's always been an exciting track and will always be an exciting track. Side 2 starts off with The Kids Are Alright, and this is a pop perfection of a song. It's a song about growing up and, figuring out who you are and letting your friends dance with your girlfriend and knowing that that's okay. Nothing crazy is going to happen. It's a really well-constructed pop track, and Roger's voice in this song is very much more smooth, and this song in itself kind of, for me, leaves the R&B mod tradition and starts to venture into what would happen next with the Happy Jack album, or a quick one in England. The middle sections of this song are great because they build up some tension. There's different songcraft elements that Pete was incorporating at this point that are leagues ahead, streets ahead, if you will, of what was happening even on side 1 from this album. The growth and development of his songwriting was top-notch at this point and would only continue to get better, but for crafting a pop song, this is easily one of the best early songs they ever wrote. It's just a fantastic track, and it's fun, it's catchy, it's lighthearted in its delivery, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Please, 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 and you're back into that R&B tradition again. Another James Brown song. This one swings really well with that rubbery, bouncy guitar. Excellent vocals from Roger. Sounds like he's having the time of his life on this one. He molds right into that so well. Great background vocals from the guys too to add some dimension to it. Pete's solo on this one is really sharp and stabbing and very exciting to listen to. It's a very cool solo that he does with this one. It's Not True, another Pete solo song here. No, not Pete's solo song, but he wrote this one. It's a pretty simple song, played with really good conviction. I love the really gritty guitars. There's moments when the guitars are really crunchy and angry and sort of biting, which is cool. But it's a song about lies. But man, that chorus is catchy. It's not true, I'm telling you, I'm up there and you're down there. It's not true, so there. Like, it's a really cool, catchy chorus. Again, could have been a single. The Yucks, this song about John Entwistle. He helped write this one. It's credited to Pete, Keith, John Entwistle, and Nicky Hopkins because he plays piano on it. It's an instrumental, but it's a beast of a song. I mean, Keith doesn't let up at all 1 second throughout this track. He's just banging away crazy the entire time. Thunderous bass riffing from John, which just would go on to sound like him over the years, especially with that the Boris the Spider voice. Boris the Spider. That kind of stuff you would do, the next year or so. This is the musical equivalent of that, I would say. This is a very dizzying piano throughout this thing from Nicky Hopkins. Really cool, crazy guitars. It's just an awesome, fun, ripping track. Illegal Matter is by Pete again. He sings lead on this one, which is pretty cool. But love the cymbal work on this one. Nicky on piano again. Nice track, good fun lyrics. And I think Pete does a good job. I can't see Roger singing this one, so I'm kind of glad Pete does this one. And then Instant Party, the last song on this album, which had kind of a weird life. There's a French horn on this thing, which definitely is like the only other instrument on this album that's not like guitar, bass, and drums and piano and voice. I love Pete's middle bit where he sings on this thing, and the breaks that are incorporated musically with that. But it's a fantastic pop rock track that shows where they were going to go with their next musical adventure with the Quick One album. But it was called Circles also, but they changed it. They called it Instant Party over here in America, which I think is on the it's actually listed on the front of the jacket there. But if you heard Instant Party, you wouldn't even think that this song belonged on the rest of the album, because the rest of the album really is mostly an R&B styled rock album, or pop album. So to hear Instant Party, and I'd say like The Kids Are Alright, My Generation, those songs are kind of like where they were heading next. The rest of the stuff sounds like older stuff they had around that they needed to make an album, and these were originals and they get more money for it, so let's just go write some of these and go into the studio. But yeah, Instant Party is a fantastic song. One of my favorites of the early era. I think kind of a lost classic from The Who. No one really talks about Instant Party. I think it's a fantastic song. It deserves way more attention and credit than it gets. So there's that. Here's the back cover for you, which is pretty simple. You get a little biography about the guys, song titles, other albums you could buy by Len Barry. And this one's pretty cool because it's got the original inner sleeve, the original Decca inner sleeve, and the old school Decca label, which is always one of my favorites. The thing looks so cool. Which almost all of their 60s stuff was on this label in America. Yeah, great album. I mean, my introduction to this thing, I was in high school when I first heard it, and I picked up, at the time, was the deluxe CD issue of it. The 2 CD set. So the second CD had some B-sides and demos and alternate takes, which is a lot of fun to listen to. But that was my introduction, and I found this also in high school, so I think at a flea market or something. And it's one of the only times I've ever seen it. You never come across this album. I don't know, I guess no one bought it at the time, or they've kept it over the years because it's a great album, but very hard to find in the States here. At least where I'm from anyway, I can't find it, but I think I've seen it maybe twice since then in the however long I've been collecting records for. So someday I would like to get an upgraded copy for sure. I think I even paid $20 for this like in high school. That's a lot of money back then, especially for a used record. Because at that point, people weren't buying records. I mean, collectors were, but you weren't going to Target to buy, the new whatever album. Doesn't exist. Anyways, Yeah, I'd give this thing probably a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's not my favorite album, but I do love it a lot. It's a lot of fun to put on and kind of just get lost in that early Who sound. But yeah, probably 7 or 8 out of 10. And that's it. So let me know what you guys think about this thing. You know, obviously way more Who albums to cover and tackle in the future. I've done a few of them, but thought I would just go back to the beginning and start with square one with My Generation. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Giggens. This has been Album Reviews with The Who, My Generation, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.